So I never thought I'd say this so soon, but it's official, guys. NFTs are quickly becoming not just the images that you can show off on your devices, but rather investable assets that actually come with real utility.
You guys are getting paid?
And in fact, there are already tons of very popular and well-known brands that are quickly involving themselves in the NFT trend and space. And so in today's video, I'm going to showcase 5 different types of utility NFTs to consider, as well as several brands and websites that you can check out if you're interested in investing in some of the upcoming projects.
It's showtime.
So first up, and this is very exciting, we have the VIP/experience granting/ticket NFT. So for example, you can buy an NFT which can still be a piece of artwork or any other type of digital file, but it'll actually come with some kind of special perk, specifically which allows a person who owns the NFT to access a given event. For instance, recently we have a Coachella NFT that actually has been hosted on the FTX platform, which is also an up-and-coming crypto and NFT platform. You can definitely check it out. But this NFT actually has different tiers, but one of the tiers actually allows its owners to have lifetime access to the Coachella Music Festival. And now, while this specific Coachella access granting NFT is probably too expensive for most people, there are other types of Coachella NFTs and from other tiers that actually, while they don't give you the access to the event, they are still inspired by the artwork and photographs from the event, which is still a popular music festival, one of the most well-known around the world, and also a brand, right? And thus, this could become, or this could be one investable asset to some people. Not to mention, it also comes with a different type of utility, which is that you actually can get to redeem a physical copy or physical print of the respective artwork or photograph that you buy digitally as an NFT. Not to mention, major event organizers and brands like Coachella are probably just getting started with NFTs, right? Which means we can very likely see in the future similar types of NFTs and perhaps more accessible ones that also grant access to perhaps one Coachella event, right? Or one different type of event, not necessarily lifetime, right? Which can also make the NFT a lot more affordable, especially if this technology becomes more accessible and if, say, Ethereum or whatever blockchain becomes more widespread and also more upgraded and more affordable and things like that, right? When that becomes more optimized. So I would definitely keep my eyes peeled for these types of opportunities from many major players, not only for physical events, but also virtual ones, such as ones that have already been hosted on places like, or virtual worlds like Decentraland and the Sandbox, such as with the Snoop Dogg virtual world on the Sandbox, which has already had their virtual parties. Speaking of different types of tickets or experiences that NFTs can provide, for instance, Budweiser actually partnered with certain budding music artists that actually at certain tiers allow NFT owners to have live one-on-one conferences, online conferences with that respective artist on that NFT, or at a different tier, they can even join an exclusive virtual listening party. So this is sort of just scratching the surface of what's possible. Because these NFTs are verifiable on the blockchain, it's actually quite easy to tell who is and isn't a legit owner of an NFT, right? Which makes this ticket granting VIP access type of perk a real route that NFTs can go into. And now moving on to the second type of utility NFT, and I kind of already touched on this briefly earlier, but it is NFTs that are tied to physical products, which means if you buy the NFT, you'll also get the physical product, the exact same one featured on the NFT along with it, right? Such as the Coachella ones I talked about earlier. And now different brands can sort of have different ways to go about this. For instance, they might have different tiers where, for example, a higher tier will be the one that grants the physical object and so on and so forth. For instance, Gap recently came up with an event where if you collect 4 of their common type NFTs plus 2 rare NFTs, you can actually merge them, so to speak, into a different type of, or mint a new type of NFT, which can then allow you to redeem a physical Gap product from them, right? So this sort of is more of a sort of hype event for people to sort of help promote their product, right? However, there could definitely be other types of products that just directly come tied with the one NFT that you buy, right? And I believe that this also has a lot of implications for the metaverse if and when it becomes more relevant. For instance, imagine buying any physical product that will be attached to an NFT of the same product and that you can also use in a metaverse, right? For instance, if you buy a certain accessory like a watch in real life, or vice versa, right? If you buy in a metaverse, maybe you'll get that same watch in real life, especially if the metaverse in the future becomes so robust and so realistic and has so much that you can do with it or within it. This will definitely be a very exciting reality should it become true. And for another example, Barbie even came out with their own set of sort of exclusive NFTs where those who win the auction will also receive the physical Barbie along with their NFTs. But these can be a bit more rare and thus more exclusive. But one could also argue that their value will become, greater as less people are able to collect these, right? Both the NFT and the physical product. But there's definitely a lot of potential for this to become more mainstream and for, NFTs linked to physical products to be a lot more of a common thing, especially once these brands and companies experiment more, which they are already doing, with these technologies and how people react to them, which does seem to be very well, right? Because NFTs is sort of a very powerful buzzword right now, and as well as the metaverse, which in my opinion will become even more relevant in the future. Moving on to the third type of utility NFT, and this one is a bit more experimental and new, but it's actually a revenue sharing collective NFT, and I'll explain this in just a bit. So the example I want to show you guys is Adidas and Prada recently did a collaboration, or they hosted 3,000 slots, or 3,000 people rather, where each person could help them provide photographs and designs for their NFT, which then culminated in from all of these people and with help from their own Prada designers and artists and Adidas people basically created their own final piece of NFTs. Plus the 3,000 NFTs are still intact, but they also created a sort of merged compilation NFT for which once it's sold, the revenue was actually shared with all the collaborators, right? So that's a really cool way to do a collaborative effort on an NFT, and I believe this will become a lot more prevalent in the near future with the expansion of blockchain technology, dApps, and decentralization in general. And next, onto the fourth type of NFT, and this one is actually quite well known already. So for the format of this part of the video, I'm more so going to go through different websites and companies that are involved with this type of trend, and that is gaming NFTs. And the first of these that I want to show you guys, and many people probably don't know about this just yet, but GameStop is actually partnering with Immutable X to create a sort of NFT marketplace of their own. And not only that, but they're actually looking for game producers and creators to use their ecosystem essentially to build NFT-based games that then can use GameStop as a means to sort of transact NFTs for their respective games. However, NFTs and gaming is definitely not without its own controversies as well, especially since gamers as a demographic are generally a bit more adverse to the NFT trend within especially the popular games and franchises that they know and love. For example, while some developers, even high-profile ones, are trying to integrate NFTs into some of their games or are even creating games based around NFTs, there's actually been a lot of backlash to many of these developers, including, for example, Team 17, which actually makes very popular games such as Worms, which was actually one of my favorite games growing up. And in their recent attempt or their announcement of integrating NFTs into Worms or creating a new version of Worms with NFTs, they were met with so much backlash that they actually pulled the project within 24 hours of their announcement. And also, large companies like Ubisoft have actually been integrating NFTs into many of its games and franchises, also to a lot of criticism, but it is still in fact pushing forward with this agenda, and in my opinion and in the long term, it's probably going to be a good idea. And not just Ubisoft, but other companies like Square Enix, extremely high profile for creating franchises like Final Fantasy, is also announcing that they are planning to integrate NFTs in some form into their games. And of course, besides these already established gaming companies that have been making games for years, if not a couple of decades, beginning to venture into NFTs, there are in fact already games that are quite successful and are generating a lot of revenue that do NFTs primarily as, you know, their mechanic, right? Such as the most famous one probably being Axie Infinity. And not only that, but the sandbox has been gaining a ton of traction lately, mainly for its metaverse-like gameplay and virtual world, and the fact that you can buy and sell land and also create, invest in NFTs as well, which are actual, you know, 3D virtual objects within the sandbox game. And not only that, but many celebrities and brands have invested into land and properties within the space. And there's also Decentraland, which is a bit older, but also has quite a bit of traction in terms of, you know, investment from well-known institutional brands, right, and people. And of course, if you like to be involved in or invest in any of these NFT gaming projects, some of the projects already have the associated NFTs such as Axies for sale on certain marketplaces. But for even some of the upcoming ones from, say, more established gaming companies, you can also look out for certain NFTs that might come into the market, right? Or ones that you can actually gain as perks for playing a game, for example, from a promotional event, right? I would definitely keep my eyes peeled for some of the more popular and long-lasting franchises, again, like Final Fantasy. And not only that, but certain projects also have underlying cryptocurrencies that run them, right? For example, if we look all the way back at earlier I mentioned GameStop, they might actually come out with some kind of tokenized ecosystem with their own crypto token that one can invest in as well, right? Another example of this, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but it's Engine, the system called, or the platform called Engine, also has its own Engine token, and gaming companies are already building games using this platform, right? With Engine being the token underlying that system. And finally, for the fifth type of utility NFT, and I actually have yet another bonus category that I want to mention real quick after this as well, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But anyhow, for this fifth type, we have sort of charity and global awareness and sort of donation related NFTs. And a prime and, in my opinion, really cool example of this is Wild Earth's wildlife conservation NFTs. And the way this works is by buying an NFT of a given animal, you can actually not only donate to the wildlife conservation through the NFT's sale proceeds, but you can also track that specific animal that you bought the NFT for in terms of how well it's actually doing within the conservation. And what's cool is that because these NFTs are on a Polygon network and also supported by MetaMask, you can in fact buy, sell, and trade these NFTs right on the most popular and largest NFT marketplace, OpenSea. And last but not least, for the sixth sort of category, we actually have NFTs that have yet to gain any sort of real comparable utility to the ones that I've just mentioned, but still have the potential to gain something in the future, right? So for example, NFTs on the Vivi platform, which I actually am very much looking at, and I actually have bought NFTs on the platform, can in the future, according to them, be usable within the so-called Viviverse, which is their own version of the metaverse, right? So there's definitely a lot of implications there. Whereas right now, they're not necessarily really usable in different types of utilities, although there are some select NFTs on Vivi that do have perks, like for example, some of the Disney themed ones actually give you access to Disney Plus, right? Basically for free roll into the NFT. So that's really cool. And that's definitely utility. So they're definitely looking at ways to expand upon that. And this, in my opinion, will become huge as the Viviverse rolls out. And not to mention, Vivi is a platform that hosts some of the most popular and enduring, long-lasting franchises out there, right? Like Marvel, Disney, DC Comics, even fashion brands and movies. So this is another reason that I've invested in the platform. Again, this is not financial advice, but or I've invested in NFTs rather on the platform, right? And there's also an associated cryptocurrency that underlies it, called the OMI token. And besides this, I personally like to look at NFTs that have, again, long-lasting appeal from, historically successful, well, not historically, but, long-lasting successful brands, such as recently I've been putting my eye on the Associated Press, which is, journalism, a newspaper. They're actually launching their own set of digital photo NFTs, which in my opinion will have you know, be quite unique compared to some of the other more pop culture related and artsy related, I suppose, NFTs out there, right? So this is definitely something that I'm looking out for as well. More historical journalism type NFTs that don't necessarily have utility right now, but could actually become something really interesting in the future. And that is pretty much all I want to show you guys in today's video. If you want to turn your favorite hobbies into a profitable side hustle on YouTube, you can also check out my YouTube courses, one of which is completely free, linked down below. And with that, let me know what types of NFTs and projects you might be interested in, or if I missed anything. And with that, I will see you in the next video. Peace.